Looks like we've got an exciting episode of JUSTSalvos Live coming up. Jen, a beautiful actual basket of delicious, rosy, fresh fruit. Is this a cooking show?
It is not a cooking show, although we could do that afterwards. But we have got a delicious basket of fruit that has all come from a dumpster. Can you believe it? It's all coming from a bin.
There's, believe it or not, there are social justice implications in what we're about to talk about, getting rubbish from rubbish bins. You may know it as dumpster diving. You may also know it as gleaning. It's all coming up on JUSTSalvos Live right now. Well, Gabrielle, thank you so much for joining us today. And you obviously are a little bit tired because you've been out all night rummaging through some stuff, and you've bought this amazing collection of food and bread, which you got dumpster diving. Now, some people may not know what dumpster diving is. Can you please tell us as we gaze away at the shiny beautifulness?
Beautiful fruit.
This shiny beautifulness was actually only gathered in about 3 or 4 minutes because as we were doing it, the truck came to restock. So to get to your first question, dumpster diving is the practice of going to commercial bins, mainly supermarket bins, but there's also bakeries and people do it in other chains and things like that to gather other things to retrieve the items that they've thrown out in order to use it for personal use, to share it with friends, or sometimes to kind of process it and give it away to the poor, or you know.
Wow. Yeah. So who is a dumpster diver?
I'm a dumpster diver.
Sorry, I just want to stop you. You're a dumpster diver. I don't seem to see any dreadlocks.
Well, it's a big misconception sometimes that a person who might go through a bin is, you know, is only someone who's desperately needy for food, or a hippie, or you know, it's a choice, a lifestyle choice, and it's not just got to do with being hungry and needy, but it's also got to do with an ethical choice and how you see the world, and a reaction against a purely consumerist or capitalist way of living.
Yeah, unpack that a little bit for us, because again, you're right, the stereotypes are hippies or homeless people, but you've used some big words. So tell us a little bit about what drives you in that realm to do what you do.
Well, I started dumpster diving after working at a bakery, and I was responsible for putting bags and bags of bread out at the end of the day, because they always wanted a well-stocked shelf, because that was a good image. There's, you know, you can't have gaps in your shelf. And I stopped working there after a few weeks. I couldn't handle it, but I decided to go and retrieve it, because they wouldn't give away any free food, even to staff members. So
even though they were throwing it out?
Yeah. And we knew that they were throwing it out, but it was that culture was encouraged amongst the staff. Nobody really dared stand up and go, hang on, I'm going to take this home. I don't care what the rules are. This has no real purpose, this rule. So then I decided to look in other bins and realised that the supermarket bin next door was throwing out even more food, and then the supermarket in the other suburb was throwing out just as much. And there's all of this food in every single bin, and every single retail outlet must be doing it. So I've kind of passed this on to a lot of friends, met other people who are dumpster divers. There's lawyers, there's nurses, there's bassoonists.
How many of you? What is a bassoon an instrument?
I think it is.
How many people are dumpster diving? Are you like in a gang? Do you come together on the internet? Like, what's the setup?
There are internet groups that kind of talk about the best dumpster diving in different cities, and that share information. There's Food Not Bombs, which is a huge global organisation that's quite anarchic, if you can call an organisation anarchic, but who do it for different reasons. Food Not Bombs are specifically about the redistribution of food to people who might not be so lucky as to have access to good food. But I kind of do it on a more smaller scale, and I like sharing it with the people around me. I bring food to, if I say have a big run of bread, as I do this weekend.
Yeah. It's the good stuff too.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
just the
It's really
crumpled old
good.
rolls.
Home brand wholemeal toast slice.
That's
It's
a brand name. It's really, really good bread, and people love it. And if you just say, I get it from a bin, then people kind of have all these associations of it being really dirty or being unfit for consumption. But once you show it to them, people can't refuse, and whatever preconceptions they have about it just disappear when they see how consumable the food is.
So do you warn people though? Do you warn people before you give it to them, hey, by the way, I got this from a bin?
Yeah,
but
always.
it's really yummy?
Always, because I think it's a really big part of dumpster diving and sharing the food that you go, this was
waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And passing on the concept of dumpster diving, I think, is really important.
And the food really does look great. Can you tell us a little bit about the food that you find and what maybe are some of the rules of dumpster diving? What can you take? What don't you take? I'm assuming you don't take meat maybe. I don't know. What are the rules and what is it like out there?
I would consider myself an experienced dumpster diver, and I do pick up meat and eggs and milk and things like that because I know how to recognise it. And I think that part of this society that we live in doesn't allow people to rely on the most basic thing, like their sense of smell, to be able to trust when to eat food. And so you can just look at an eye fillet steak pack that you get from the bin and go, that's been thrown out because you can't see the expiry date properly, and they've got it out of the box, gone, no. These eggs have been thrown out because there's one egg that's cracked.
Yeah. And how often do you get? Do you see this kind of stuff? Like you've got a great cachet of stuff here. How often do you get something like this, or some meat, or some eggs that you just think, no, it was just thrown out?
It's days of the week. You begin to know your dumpster. So one day it will be mainly fruit and vegetables. Obviously, this entire stock was Friday night, so fruit and vegetables in the dumpster that I go to. Another night is eggs and milk. Another night is cans and packets.
Now, we've been calling this dumpster diving, but you could say it's known by a different name, which could be the biblical name almost, gleaning.
Yeah, there's a great history to gleaning. I think it's in Leviticus where the law is set down that a farmer should leave behind an area around the edges of their crops so that people can gather it, and also should allow the poor to follow the harvest to pick up what hasn't been harvested.
So if this stuff is rooted in biblical times, why aren't we doing it today? Why is it such a sort of cloak and dagger operation today, do you think?
There's responsibility all the way along the line of production, I think. It's not just the supermarkets who are the sinners. It's every single part of the production line. It's farmers, it's supermarkets, and it's probably most importantly consumers, and the messages that we send to supermarkets that a carrot with 2 legs is abnormal, an apple this size is not
worth
what
buying.
we want.
Yeah.
There's over 3,000 types of apples, and we see maybe 4 or 5 varieties in the shops. We want really standard, unblemished food, and that's not the right message to send to the supermarkets.
Yeah. So really, what is the social justice issue in all of this? Is it on the consumer? Is it what do we have to learn from this?
I think it's about examining every aspect of your life, and the best way to do things for the environment, for other people, for your own health and well-being, and it's quite a complex social justice issue, I think.
And I think for me, this idea that the consumer somehow must have absolute perfection, because this food is not waste, is it?
No, it's absolutely fine. It's what my housemates and I live on, and I've never been sick from it.
But even to say that, like some of these, if we check these puppies out, like these aren't imperfect potatoes. These are decent shaped, decent sized potatoes. You've got decent sized bread here.
I don't know what these are, but
I believe that might be a choco.
Is it?
Yes, I believe it might be.
And
my
I'm going to
grandpa used to make me eat them. They're kind of like a potato. Oh, they're not that nice. But other people like them. Those same people that like silver beet, I think, like chocos. Look, from my perspective, the consumer only buys things that are perfect, and therefore the rest of it becomes waste. But actually, it's maybe not perfect for for selling things, but it's certainly perfect for consumption.
Yeah, and I think that gap needs to be narrowed. And we've seen it recently in the news. Nick Xenophon and Barnaby Joyce have come out and encouraged consumers to buy food that's perhaps blemished or not the standard that we think it would be. And the supermarkets have agreed to participate in this specifically in the face of the floods in Queensland.
And isn't it interesting that it's taken an absolute disaster for us to say, okay, maybe we don't need perfect shaped apples. Maybe we don't need bananas that are pure yellow. But in the face of this disaster, all of a sudden everybody, including the supermarkets, are saying, okay, everybody, time to start buying wonky bananas.
It's amazing. Well, what would the supermarket say to this? What do you think that they are thinking at the moment?
There's lots of reasons that a supermarket would be against dumpster diving specifically. One of them is liability, and that's also because consumers do sue, and consumers have kind of also set that standard. Another one is that they won't be able to sell those items, and so they're losing money. And, well, there's three reasons that I usually think of. What's the third one? There's,
Well, because we spoke to a supermarket during the week, actually.
We did, because I wanted to know what kind of levels of waste they were throwing out. And they said it varies, and they said very clearly they only throw out things that are waste, things that they can't sell, and that it's in the bin for a reason. And that's, fairly typical of a response, and that they certainly don't agree with anybody dumpster diving because they don't want them to get sick. It's waste, therefore it shouldn't be consumed. Yeah. And that's fair enough. I mean, it's fair enough that they would have that opinion, but I mean, your years of experience would suggest that you haven't been sick.
Yeah.
Though I would imagine there are people that dumpster dive that do get sick, maybe who aren't as experienced or...
I think people are pretty aware of what they're picking up, and the fact that it's come from a bin, you do examine it, and there is some rejects that you have as well. There are certainly things that are thrown out for a good reason.
Yeah.
But I think that a huge percentage of it is thrown out just for cosmetic reasons.
Look, we have to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming in. I think the big lesson for all of us really has been we don't all want to go rummaging through rubbish bins, but certainly as consumers we need to start asking better questions. We need to start asking our supermarkets, why are all your foods the same shape and size? Can we do something more? And we're seeing it now, as we said, in the wake of the floods, that maybe we can, as people, and then as supermarkets, can start saying, it doesn't all have to be perfect.
And examine your own behaviour, I think, is what I heard you say. As a consumer, firstly, work out whether or not you're going to choose the bruised banana or the non-bruised banana, and ask yourself why. Yeah, I mean, and maybe it's because you don't like eating bruised bananas, but you can probably make muffins or something like that. But so maybe examine our behaviour.
Yeah, and make muffins.
And make more muffins.
Everybody loves muffins. Thank you, Gabrielle.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Well, there we are. Gabrielle was certainly an interesting guest. She certainly knows her stuff. This was, without question, one of the more fruitful shows we've ever done. Sorry, that was your dad gag. Fruitful.
It's very funny, Kris.
Tell me, though, what did you get out of this?
Oh, it was fantastic. Like, I never thought I'd be eating a carrot from a bin. And it's just taught me that, really, I need to open my mind a little bit and start to look at fruit and vegetables in a new way. Stop looking at them as garbage or good.
Yep. It's not just for hippies and poor people. In fact, if we can get people thinking differently and thinking better about the way they shop, not only will this stuff not get thrown out, but farmers will obviously be doing a lot better off, and they certainly need our help right now.
Definitely a social justice issue.
Absolutely. Join us next week on JUSTSalvos Live. Please get on our Facebook. We'd love to know what you think about dumpster diving. Have you done it? Would you like to do it? Get into it. www.facebook.com/JUSTSalvos. We will see you next week.